Ottawa County's Mud Creek harbors a secret beneath its tranquil waters. A mystery first uncovered 41 years ago when a young woman's body was found floating about 10 feet from the bank.
This case is not going to be solved by law enforcement.
Dan Van Voris and Amy Glore from the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force are working to identify the woman whose body now lies nearby in an unmarked grave. It is a job no one has been able to do since late October of 1975, when Jane Doe was first pulled from the murky waters of Mud Creek.
And the duck hunters happened to be in the area.
There is no DNA evidence in her cold case file. She wore no clothing, no shoes. Nothing belonging to her was found at the scene, except this, a love knot worn on her right ring finger.
It's obviously there's a lot of questions as to the circumstances of how she got there.
With little to go on, not even a clue as to how she died,
Yeah, this was a road.
these investigators are hoping a member of the public can identify her.
There's just one problem. The only picture they have of the woman was taken after her body was found, swollen for 2, maybe 3 days in the water.
They can't show that to the public, so they've asked members of the FBI's Forensic Anthropology program to turn back the hands of time. Using crime scene photos from 1975, a composite photo of what the woman might look like if she was still alive on that day will be created.
And from those photos, the forensic anthropologist can actually get those measurements that they need. And they also get measurements from the autopsy report.
FBI Special Agent Vicki Anderson says information fed into a 3D printer will produce a resin skull. A forensic artist will then mold a face of clay onto it. The final product will be photographed, and a picture will be released to the public. Just how closely does the work of the forensic artist and anthropologist match the real-life version of a John or Jane Doe? The composite photo of this clay sculpture was recognized by loved ones of the young man on the right. The hope is the same will happen for Ottawa County's mystery woman. Take a good look. Investigators believe this is what she looked like prior to her death. 20, maybe 30 years old, a wide space between her front teeth.
To see, what the artist came up with puts life to the case and, puts a face to it over the last 40 years.
Van Voris and Glore want everyone who sees the photo to search their memories and their photo albums for a young woman who would be 60 or 70 years old by now. An autopsy revealed she'd given birth at least once. She was about 5'4" and weighed 140, maybe 150 pounds at the time of her death. And don't forget that love knot she wore on her right hand.
She's more than just a case.
Yes.
Van Voris and Glore say Jane Doe is someone's mother, definitely someone's daughter, possibly a sister or even an aunt. That she lies beneath the ground near the same body of water where she was found all those years ago, without so much as a headstone to mark her life, troubles them both.
So I think it's just time, with the help of the community, that we provide a family a closure and get her back to where she needs to be with her family.
Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much. The fact that we're all together, that we're able to spend this time together. We thank you for just putting us all together. Is this good? Mm-hmm. I met Bob in college. We both went to Cleveland State, and we both were part of the radio station there, WCSB. That was in 1974.
This is Bob Becker.
He was the all-American boy.
A report from Air Traffic Control.
Bob was only 58. And all of a sudden he couldn't, words weren't coming, he was confused, he'd make mistakes. Now I remember at the radio station he couldn't do his timesheet, he couldn't figure that out. I lost my conversation partner. I lost my other half. My husband lost the ability to speak. fairly quickly. To act on something is fading. He is still my Bob. We've been married 37 years now, and we have 2 boys.
Mr. Baker, Mrs. Baker, this is the MRI picture we have from you guys. As you can see, there's a little bit shrinkage here. We see that. That's the memory center of brain, which is mostly we see in patients with Alzheimer's dementia. I think the most important thing I want people with dementia and the family to know and appreciate is the fact every medication now we have in the market, we own it to hundreds of people who participate in clinical trials. And it will be so important to consider as an option to participate in any clinical trials because we can only have new discoveries.
Hey, today we're going to jog your minds a little with the holiday mind joggers. What do you have usually, Bob?
Visiting an adult day center proves that life does not end with a diagnosis. They are still living life to the fullest.
We all met at the Alzheimer's Association meetings, but we realized that we needed to have some socialization for our guys because that's the best medicine.
Push it, push it, push it. Bob and I come here every Saturday, and for about 2 hours we'll walk the track, do the bicycle. You feeling it?
I'm feeling it.
He really enjoys that. What happens when you have a good day?
I don't know.
I am responsible for keeping Bob engaged.
Today, the Cleveland Indians and the Minnesota Twins playing.
Come on, get him out, get him out, get him out. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Christian Church.
Bob Becker's been a member of this congregation for many, many years. I think for the congregation, he has been so vibrant to see him not be able to do things he used to be able to do.
Well, I don't really know about that particular story.
My name's Tom Moore. I'm a news anchor for iHeartRadio in Cleveland. Bob was always our Saturday morning host for quite a few years. He also filled in for Bill Wills. I loved working with Bob. He doesn't remember who I am anymore, even though we did work together for quite a few years.
Transmission of 50,000 watts of radio memories is about to begin.
Bob has always been, in my mind, is a very generous soul. I'm Mark Rosenberger, managing editor of content at WVIZ PBS Idea Stream. We were good friends. We worked with each other for many years. When I worked with him as a documentarian, he was always giving, easy to get along with. And when you look at him today, I think that generosity still shines through, even though he's not able to communicate.
Hey, Bubby, how's your drink? That's it, babe. In some ways it's sad because our circle of friends grows smaller. As this journey continues, you have to change how you're sailing.
Now, what are we doing here?
This disease steals so much from you. What we have been very blessed is that it has not stolen the core of who Bob is. This is the nature walk at the cemetery, and this is the cemetery where we picked out that we'd like to end up here. Bubby, this is the spot that we picked out that when we're gone, we want to have a spot where people can come and just be in nature. Hopefully think a little bit about us. Aw, I love you.
I need someone to hold.
Look at the towers. I love coming here. Yeah, isn't that neat? It reminds me when you were on the radio and TV.
The life we used to live is slipping through my fingertips like a thread that's unraveling. I suppose that nothing lasts forever, and everything is lost in its time.
The images are ones of lives near ruin, like we have rarely seen before. An Ohio couple slumped over from a heroin overdose with a 4-year-old in the back seat. Images of people overdosing in stores or out on the streets. And the sounds can be heartbreaking. A Youngstown father, Brendan Clark, telling his son that his mother has overdosed and died.
Mommy died last night. Okay.
What do you mean, my mom?
Yes.
How?
From drugs.
I don't think your viewing public understands the magnitude of the carnage. It's not just a public health crisis, it's a plague.
A plague, drug court judge David Matthias says.
What do you need help with?
That is killing more Americans than a war.
Vietnam, the number of people who died in Vietnam was 58,000. We're almost losing that every year. And how many years are we into that?
It's now been almost 5 years since the I-Team first traveled to southern Ohio to report on an emerging crisis.
I relapsed while I was pregnant with her, and I used until 3 weeks ago.
People overdosing in record numbers on heroin and its legal cousins, opium-based painkillers such as oxycodone and Oxycontin.
Ohio has been particularly hard hit, no question about it.
Chuck Rosenberg runs the DEA, the nation's Drug Enforcement Administration.
Sometimes we overuse certain words like historic or unprecedented. This is an epidemic. We're going to lose 47,000 people this year to a drug overdose death. And remember, in some ways, that number is a significant undercount because we have many, many, many more people who overdose but don't die.
Indeed, just in the small town of Euclid, records show its fire department administered naloxone, the heroin antidote drug, to 145 people last year alone.
I wish that I could say that this was just a temporary thing and it's going to go away, but it doesn't appear. It appears to be getting worse.
What's driving the increased demand for heroin and its opiate cousins?
One of the things driving the increased demand for all opioids are prescription pills. We know that 4 out of 5 new heroin users started on pills. And most people got those pills legitimately, at least at some point.
Given that statement from the nation's top drug enforcement official, you might expect other government policies to encourage doctors to be more careful, to prescribe fewer opiates for their patients to manage pain. But in fact, the opposite is true. Federal policies put pressure, financial pressure, on doctors to prescribe more opiates in the middle of a heroin epidemic.
We know that physicians across Ohio feel strongly that they are being pressured.
My colleagues tell me that the pressure is extremely intense, and that oftentimes, these patients have been on these medications for years.
Both Dr. Jason Jerry at the Cleveland Clinic and Dr. Joan Papp at Metro say they are grateful that their hospitals do not reduce individual doctors' pay based on how patients rate their pain treatment on government surveys. The same is true at university hospitals. Doctors' individual pay does not go down based on patient surveys about pain control.
The messaging is always the same, which is practice good medicine. And so an opioid sometimes is appropriate and sometimes it's not, but it's not based on an HCAP question at all.
HCAPS is the name of the federal survey given to Medicare patients after hospital stays. There are 2 pain questions, one on pain control and one asking if the hospital staff did everything they could for pain. Patients are given 4 choices, and if they don't answer always to both pain questions, the amount of money the government pays the hospital for their care goes down.
Several hospitals across the country do structure their payment that way.
A study of 1,100 doctors just in Ohio found 74%, about 3 out of 4, felt more pressure to prescribe opioids because of how the government reimburses for pain control.
It's unrealistic to believe that they are not going to cave into that pressure in some cases.
What patients want is not always the best medicine.
Dr. Jerry says all physicians know that reimbursement may go down to their hospitals, and they know that patient satisfaction scores matter a lot.
You feel that, and what are you doing wrong, and that your satisfaction scores aren't up to snuff with the rest of the institution.
And ask the drug court judge, who sees lives ruined by prescription pills every week.
She's going to be dead.
Ask him about patient scores influencing doctors to prescribe more opiates, and he'll tell you
It is the exact opposite of what the medical profession should be doing.
So what should be done?
There are many solutions. We have to attack supply. That's the traditional law enforcement response. But we also have to attack demand.
And attacking demand may mean changing a system that encourages doctors to prescribe more pills during an epidemic when people are dying in warlike numbers, one by one.
I'm so sorry.
Bill Scheel, Fox 8 IT.
I'm at the Alrosa bar, please. There's been gunfire. People are running out of the building. We need help as soon as possible.
12 years before the Orlando nightclub massacre,
I seen him grab the first guitarist and shot him around in his head area.
Columbus had one of its own.
Police in Columbus, Ohio are investigating a deadly shooting last night.
A crazed heavy metal music fan named Nathan Gale opened fire inside the Alrosa nightclub.
There's really no words to describe it. I just wish I never have to see it again.
While the death toll wasn't as high as Orlando,
everybody was scared because everybody tried to help, got shot.
The terrifying moments on December 8th, 2004 still resonate among those who were there more than a decade later.
Someone is shooting the band on the stage.
Minutes after the group Damage Plan took the stage with 400 people inside,
a guy just walked across the stage and went right for Dimebag Darrell, and he grabbed him and shot him right in the head.
38-year-old Dimebag Darrell Abbott was the lead guitarist.
And he just went crazy and started shooting people.
Nearly 2 minutes after the group Damage Plan began to play, the band's own video rolls the entire time. The shooting lasted 5 minutes. Witnesses say they heard Gale fire as many as 20 rounds from his 9mm Beretta handgun. Police say the exact number was 15.
Oh, they're still shooting. They're still shooting. The person is still loose with the gun.
When it was over, 5 people, including the gunman, were dead. 3 others were wounded.
It was horrible. It was horrible, and the crying and the yelling.
If anyone can understand what the survivors of the Orlando massacre endured,
He put the gun up to the hostage's head, and at that point I just stopped where I was and just pulled up and shot.
It's the people.
Worst night of my life.
Who survived the second worst mass shooting in Columbus history.
When people die like this, you try to figure out why. And that was just the biggest question is, why? Why like that?
Andy Hawk's brother Aaron worked security for club owner Rick Catella.
He went after, he didn't want any more people dying, so he charged Nathan Gale, the scumbag.
Catella recalled how Hawk died trying to save others.
Aaron Hawk charged, grabbed one of these things, as big as they are, okay, and lifted it in front of him and charged right after Nathan Gale. What a hero. But the bullets went right through the monitors.
Andy says Aaron's death,
it almost makes holidays hard,
has forever changed the Hawk family.
Now that your Christmas has a hole in it, it takes something away from that.
He says the massacre inside the Orlando nightclub dredges up memories he's tried to forget.
Kind of gut-wrenching to have to rethink about all that stuff that happened.
The murders inside Alrosa Villa, while much smaller in scale than the 49 dead killed in the Orlando shooting, are similar. Both happened inside a packed nightclub. Both shooters were able to enter with loaded weapons despite security, and the lingering effects of the horror will forever haunt those who survived the shootings.
It was very difficult to decompress. I probably didn't sleep for the first 2 days.
Columbus police officer Jim Niggemeyer put an end to the carnage when he came through this back door, walked on stage, and shot Nathan Gale in the head with a single shot from his 12-gauge shotgun.
It absolutely still lingers for me. Yeah, 12 years later. And, I've still see psychologists 12 years later and take medication, which helps a lot. But that's the question I've asked, is it going to go away?
Niggemeyer says he suffers from PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, among other things.
They're very debilitating. You know, I was hospitalized with panic disorders.
He says the department forced him to retire because his condition disqualified him as a first responder. What he saw still haunts him.
You don't have any control over your brain. You really don't. I'm living proof that you have no control. The nightmares and flashbacks and all the stuff that happens, you can't shut it off.
Niggemeyer's actions saved countless lives, including a hostage who Gale had trapped in a headlock.
So I come to realize that, you know, had we not reacted as fast as we had, there would have been more casualties, and the hostage for sure would not have made it.
Nobody knows about this.
For the first time,
this room is not open to the public.
The club's owner is about to reveal where some of the concert goers and band members hid as the gunman fired from the stage.
But this is the place where I took Dimebag's brother, Vinnie Abbott, and covered him up with a blanket.
The room was fortified with 2 metal doors.
That night, although I had a gun, I didn't know who to go after. My main job was to grab customers and the band that were performing that night, the Damage Plan, and bring them into a safe place.
He said 35 people were kept safe inside this room.
More people were trying to get in there, and we didn't know if it was the shooter, so we couldn't open the door.
In what has become known as heavy metal's darkest day, those who were here still find the images hard to escape after all these years.
It changed us all.
As for Andy Hawk, whose brother stepped in front of the gunman to save the lives of others, he holds on to the belief that those in Orlando did the same while that gunman took aim at the crowd.
I'm sure there were heroes like that, you know, down in Orlando that we'll never know about, you know, because they were probably taken down. So, you know, you try to keep that hope that, you know, people did, you know, try to stop the killer.
A lot of people thought that behind these speakers was where Nathan Gale came in. But that's absolutely not true.
It's one thing to hear about the story of the Al Rosa shooting.
Yeah, they interviewed people that were witnesses in here.
It's quite another to actually see the aftermath. You're about to see what the bar looked like after the shootings, how Al Rosa turned from nightclub into a nightmare.
A customer ran up on the stage and said, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you shooting the band?" And they just killed him right then.
These are never-before-seen evidence photos from inside the club. This is Nathan Gale's bloody 9mm handgun. The bullet casings from that gun are left scattered on the stage. Nightclub owner Rick Catella remembers people trying to stop him.
And there was a guy behind him that was the security guard for the band. He tackles the killer, and then the killer starts shooting him from underneath.
The photos show the shotgun slug Officer Jim Niggemeyer fired that hit Gale directly in the face and ended the killing spree. The force of the blast knocked Gale, who stood 6'5" and 268 pounds, into the dressing room. It's about 3 feet away from where he stood on stage. And there are photos of Daryl Dimebag Abbott seconds before Gale ran onto the stage and shot him to death.
When I pulled my cruiser up and got out, there was 3 or 4 people that were yelling, "Come to the back door, come to the back door."
This back door, it's here where Officer Niggemeyer quietly entered, only to see Gale waving a gun with a hostage in a headlock.
The hostage was below his chin.
Niggemeyer said he was about 20 feet away when he fired. It was buckshot. Somehow the hostage escaped without a scratch.
That was the first question I asked afterwards when I walked out. To the officer who brought me out. I said, "Is the hostage okay?"
Police photos show Gale lived in this sparse Marysville apartment. He was a former Marine who was discharged in 2003 after his mother said he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. It was his mother who bought him the gun. Inside his apartment, police took photos of 3 handwritten notes. One said, quote, "You'll see me come alive. I'll take your life and make you mine. This is my life. I'm gone. Get me." Prior to the shooting, Gale was seen several times by security guards who asked him to move his car from this back parking lot. Gale did not have a ticket, so he scaled this back fence, which is near the club's main entrance.
He came right through here.
He said someone went to get food and Gale slipped in. He says as Gale made his way towards the stage, security followed behind him.
They were chasing him. They thought he was sneaking in. They were just chasing him for that. They didn't know he was going to shoot the place up.
On the 1-year anniversary of the shootings, members of the band sued the club, claiming there was inadequate security provided. Catella says the case is over.
They settled for a real minimal amount, like $6,000 each.
Police determined the motive behind the shooting was likely that Nathan Gale was a deranged man who believed the band was stealing his songs and he wanted revenge. Catella says to this day, few heavy metal bands return to his club, but it's not out of fear.
Bands from out of town would not play here because they felt like they were going against Dimebag.
Respect for one of the kings of heavy metal who just made an impromptu stop in Columbus after their tour. Catella says he'll likely close within the year, shuttering the longest continuously family-owned nightclub in the country, one named after his father, Al, and mother Rosa, a name friends urged him to change to stay in business, but he refused.
It's going to be Al Rosa until it goes down.
Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
I am from Ohio.
We know Daryl painted that car. We know that Jenny assembled that car.
Born at Grant Hospital. My parents are from Columbus, Ohio.
Our people built that car, painted that car, welded that car.
I started here in 1983, painting cars.
Here is Marysville. You may know about Honda's big footprint here, but just down the road, there's a secret about to go worldwide. In car speak, a halo car is the most ambitious vehicle a brand can make. Halo cars compete with the world's best.
I grew up west of Toledo.
Are you a native Ohioan?
Yes, I am. Born and raised.
Over the last 4 years, your neighbors.
I am from Ohio.
OSU alumni.
Went to the Ohio State University.
And Ohioans through and through.
I grew up in Springfield. I went to Urbana College.
Have been engineering, testing, painting, and building Acura's Halo car, the NSX. A hybrid supercar.
What's a supercar plant look like? We think it looks like this.
This is Acura's PMC, Performance Manufacturing Center, the place where workers mostly hand build each NSX. This is the first time a Columbus TV news camera has been allowed inside. Honda had to rethink its entire manufacturing process. At the plant next door, 1,200 Hondas and Acuras can come off the line every day. Here at this plant, once it's up and running, 8 to 10 NSXs will be built today.
It's wonderful that Honda trusted us to build this product.
If there's one word you take away from this story, it's that one: trust. When someone buys a supercar, it's often names like Ferrari or Lamborghini.
And when I got on the project, I thought, okay, there's going to be a lot of Japanese oversight because it's got to be successful. It's a Halo car. It's got to be the best car we've ever built.
It's trust that makes Chuck, Gail, Werner, Daryl, Shannon, and all their nearly 200 NSX coworkers history makers. You see, a foreign car company has never built its Halo car in America until now. Full production of the NSX starts very soon.
We're like proud parents here. We have our baby that we're ready to share with the world.
When Honda executives in Japan gave the NSX the green light years ago,
A young boy who has been reborn.
They turned to the people they trust, Ohioans, to get the job done.
I started playing with these cars when I was real young, and here I am as a man. I'm not playing with the cars, but I'm actually building the cars.
We spent a lot of time working on that.
Japanese executives even turned over the entire NSX project to an American executive, Ted Klaus.
So they have amazing confidence in us.
He's called Ohio home for years.
This is their investment coming full circle in me and all the other folks.
Ted led his team at Research and Development, also in Marysville, just down the road from the Performance Manufacturing Center. The more we learned about the NSX, the more Ohio connections we discovered. Nearly a dozen coats of paint cover the car, paint that could also spell the letters OHIO.
It's PPG paint. It's made in Ohio.
David Jessen and other engineers hand build the NSX engine in Anna, Ohio.
great sound. I mean, it just gives me goosebumps, really, to hear it run every time.
And run it does. 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, crane your neck good looks, snap your neck power. Nearly 600 horsepower from 4 motors. Remember Chuck Hinkle said he thought there would be a lot of Japanese oversight?
And that oversight wasn't there. It was really the American team that was allowed the freedom to develop this car all by ourselves.
It's a point of pride, but it's also a little bit of pressure. Make sure you get it right.
A little nervous?
A little nervous.
That's okay.
Just a little.
Sure, these folks are nervous, but still excited.
Knowing that we are making such a huge impact on the community with the people that are working here, the families that are being supported through this opportunity is just, it's an overwhelming feeling for us.
An overwhelming feeling to make supercar history. History on 4 wheels, built by 2 hands, crafted by 1 Ohio workforce.
Yes, Ohioans in the heartland of America can really develop a Japanese/American supercar.